Barakateh Hawa, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Continuation on the Gentiles, Israelite Foreigners. And pretty much I was just watching a video with the up-and-coming elder Karatazad of the Vegas camp. And pretty much he was going into this one commentary dealing with the book of Revelation 13. And pretty much as he was going through it, he had mentioned something in it that kind of sparked, something in me. This is the video here. The hour of temptation will be a major test. Expositors, Greek New Testament, commentary on MOTB. And pretty much, it was something that Elder Pastor covered in one of his lessons that he did, dealing with the book of 3rd Maccabees. Which the 3rd Maccabees, 4th Maccabees, they go off on certain things, but they are historical events, historical books. And I just happened to go to it just real quick to get a quick glance at it. And earlier today and many other times when we speak about the Israelite foreigners, we speak about how the Jews in Jerusalem had a real disdain, real looking down upon, the Israelite foreigners, because they considered them to be traitors. They considered them to be apostates. They considered them to be not worth being called Israelites anymore, not worthy of any more, mercy to be extended towards them. So what I wanted to do, I just wanted to touch on that real quick here in the in this, like I said, 3rd Maccabees, the 2nd chapter. I'm gonna start at the 25th verse. The subtitle says Ptolemy Philopator and the Alexandrian Jews. It says, when he had returned to Egypt, he added to his evil deeds with the assistance of his drinking companions and friends who were strangers to everything just. He wasn't satisfied with his innumerable indecent acts, but he also advanced to such a degree of impudence that he circulated false reports in the various districts. Many of his friends took note of the king's purpose and followed his lead. He proposed to spread blame quickly against the Jewish nation, and that's what these devils do. The Edomites, when you look at the history of America, and pretty much any time in history when these devils ruled, they always put the blame on our people, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians. And you see that they'll put out false reports. They'll do all type of manner of evil and wickedness to Jake, and then they'll pretty much get away scot-free, So it says, he set up a stone near the tower in the courtyard with the following inscription carved upon it. None who refuse a sacrifice are to enter into their sanctuaries. In addition, all the Jews are to be registered and their property cataloged. And this is pretty much what we're going through, or what's about to happen right now, where, everything is being set up under something called, a category. And that's in the book of Revelation chapter 12 and 10, where the scriptures call this devil the accuser of our brethren. Revelation 12 and 10, and I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power and the power of his anointed, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. And when you look up this word accuser, the word there is kategoreo, which means to put into categories, but it also means accuser, to accuse before a judge, to make an accusation of an extrajudicial accusation, to be a plaintiff, but the word kategoreo, I'm pretty sure if you look up the root word, it's going to go back to the word category, because that's what they do. They like to categorize everything. That's why they're trying to put Israel in the box, and they're having a hard time because there's different, groups out there that have different things that they teach. And the truth pretty much is there's no set curriculum You know, it's like the spirit is like the wind. It moves and it goes. You don't know where it's going. You don't know where it's coming from. You know, so that's why they're having a hard time putting it into a box. So they pretty much paint a broad stroke when they speak about the Hebrew Israelites, because it's impossible for them to categorize every single thing that we teach, you know, because the Lord made it very elusive for them. So it says property cataloged. Those who object are to be taken by force and put to death, right? And this is what's it's going to come down to this. Eventually, you know, the majority of the world is going to be deceived into taking an MOTB. But there's going to be a point. At what point, we don't know exactly. The Lord knows, where the ones that resist, some of them are going to be put to death. So at the threat of death, prison, at the threat of, well, death, pretty much death, and being put in prison for refusing this MOTB, because it's going to come to a point where it's going to be mandatory. You know, it's going to be, right now it's going to be what's the word I'm looking for? When you choose, there's a word for it, I can't think of it right now. You choose, voluntary. It's voluntary now, right? And they're going to deceive a lot of people into getting it, but eventually they're going to make it mandatory. And the reason why we know is because of this scripture right here, Revelation 20:4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his charagma upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Yahushua 1,000 years. So that's letting you know that eventually it's going to be made mandatory. Come on, man. Just if you're new to the page, why you want to share anything with me? Just watch, listen, take notes. If not, you could keep it moving, man. We're not interested in what you got to share, unless it's something dealing with the MOTB or something that complements the lesson. Other than that, just sit back and listen and take notes. Everybody always got an opinion and something they want to add, to the pot. Just sit back and listen, or you could just move on to the next video. Now, going back, it says this is verse 29. Those who are registered are to be branded on the body by fire with the ivy leaf signs of Dionysius, and are also to be assigned to their former limited civic status. Like you heard Elder Apostle Tahar go into this not too long ago, where he did his lesson on this, right? It says, but so as not to seem, so this is, back then this would have been known as the MOTB, but in that time frame, because the MOTB is nothing more than a badge of servitude. But back then they would brand people, because that was the technology they had back then. Today, the technology that they have is to be able to insert something inside of people to be able to track them. Hey, you know what, my man? You're going to have to get on up out of here. I'm going to put you on timeout, but if you keep on with your madness, I'm going to have to, ban you from being on here. Just, what, man, when you come back off of timeout, you're going to be blocked, man. You got to play with you. Be humble and don't be rude. Why can't I share things? Just be quiet, man. Or move on to another goddamn, another platform. The hell's wrong with you people, man? Just keep it moving, man. Nobody want to hear what you got to say. But so as not to seem hateful to all, he added, but if any of them should prefer to join those who have been initiated unto the mysteries, These are to enjoy political rights equal to the Alexandrians, right? Because at that time, this was the way for individuals to get involved within the structure of that political, social / economic society. And this is pretty much what's going to happen now. This is why they're moving everything digital, because the next step is to make everything digital. You know, it says, now let's read on. And this is pretty much what's being shown right now to the world. This is why the world is and the whole world is in a bad economic spot, because they're getting rid of the old system to bring in the new system. It says, now some Jews, while pretending to detest the steps to be undertaken for the city's religion, readily surrendered themselves to share in great fame through the association they would have with the king, right? Because you had some Israelites, that wanted that fame and wanted to be a part of that system back then. So they did the things approved of these nations, and that's why you had a lot of Israelites back then that weren't calling themselves Jews, that weren't keeping the Sabbath, that weren't circumcising their children, that weren't keeping high holy days, so on and so forth. Anyways, it says, but the honorable majority were strong. Hey, my man, you could go with him too. To be honest, Smith was talking about what you could go with him too, man. We're teaching here. Do you go into the white man's, classrooms and interrupt them while they're teaching? You know what? You could fuck off too. How about that? You would never go into the white man's establishment and disturb their classes, But here it is. You don't have respect for if it ain't the white man, you don't have respect. Fucking unbelievable, man. But the honorable majority was strong and didn't depart from their religion. These are the ones that were resolved within themselves not to, to stain themselves with the things that the heathen were doing. All right. So you had two classes, and you got to remember that when you come up to the time of Yahushua and the Pharisees and them at that time, this history was very fresh in their memories back then. So there has always been a disdain for those that they were considered to be like the shambles of the time or the sellouts. But then you had those that maintained their integrity and didn't bend to the will of these heathens, these Edomites. It says they bravely tried to save themselves from being registered by resorting to bribes in exchange for their lives. They remained hopeful, and then you had those like the Maccabees that would fight against these heathens. To hell with you. We ain't making no league with you, nothing. We ain't bribing you. We ain't paying you shit. It says they remained hopeful of obtaining help, and they looked with contempt on those Jews. See, it says, let's read that again. They remained hopeful of obtaining help, and they looked with contempt on those Jews who had deserted them. These are the sellouts. So they understood this history. Once you come up, bring it up to date. That's why even in the Josephus, you have something called, the apostate Jews that were among the Samaritans. And those were the ones that they had disdain for because they were accused of breaking the law, and they would flee among the Samaritans not to be brought up on the charges. But then you had this history of the Jews in the Greek Empire that were Hellenized, and didn't call themselves Jews. They called themselves Greeks. They didn't circumcise their children. They didn't keep the Sabbath. They didn't keep the high holy days. So the Jews in Jerusalem that knew that they were Jews had a disdain for them because they looked at them as sellouts. They looked at them as deserters. Let's read that again. They remained hopeful of obtaining help, and they looked with contempt on those Jews who had deserted them. They considered those who gave in to be enemies of the Jewish nation and no longer associated with them or offered them assistance. And this is why when we bring it up to date, during the time of Yahushua, you had the circumcision in Jerusalem calling these sellout Jews uncircumcision. You became uncircumcised. All right. And even here in St. John 8, and I start at 46. It says, which of you convinces me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do you not believe me? He that is of the Most High heareth the Most High's words. You therefore hear them not, because you are not of the Most High. This he was cursing Israelites out. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, say we not well, thou art a what? A Samaritan, and hast a devil. So these were insults that were hurled at other Israelites, because it was an insult to call somebody a heathen or of another nation, and that's why they did that. Because they said, you guys are sellouts, you're apostates, you sold out during the time of the Greek Empire, and you're no longer worthy to be in our presence. That's why, as we read in Ephesians, let's read that again. Ephesians 2, we read this earlier, I believe. No, we read this yesterday. Ephesians 2 and 11, wherefore remember that you being in time past Gentiles in the flesh. This is you Israelite foreigners. You were in the past time Gentile in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands. Why? Because they had a disdain for the sellouts. They had a disdain for those that left the nation. That's why the Apostle Paul had to come back and say, Romans 11 and 1, I say then, have the Most High cast away his people? The Most High forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. But there had to be they had to be, this all had to happen in order, for the prophecies to be fulfilled. Because you had to have those Israelite foreigners to be brought back from among the nations, just like it speaks about here in the book of Isaiah 11. Let's go there real quick. Isaiah 11 and 10. It says, and in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which is who? Yahushai, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. And that was Yahushai. To which shall the Gentiles seek? Who are these Gentiles? Israelite foreigners that were scattered among the nations. We've broken this down many times. And his rest shall be glorious, the restored remnant. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from where? From Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. Why? Because our people were scattered according to the curse that the Lord put upon our people. It says, and he shall set up an ensign for the nations. And what is the ensign for the nations? That's Yahushai, and that's the message that's being taught. And shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, because the word was doing the gathering and the sifting from among these nations, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. And that's what's happening right now. The Lord is gathering back the tribes, breaking down that middle wall of partition, removing the differences between the tribes, and bringing them back together as one to fulfill Ezekiel 37 and many other scriptures. How the Lord is building back the tabernacles of David. I'm bringing back and removing the differences from the tribes. That's why it says the envy also of Ephraim shall depart, because Ephraim they were the head at one time, but the Lord had set up Judah, because it was always going to be given to Judah anyway. But they were in there temporarily. But when Judah got up in there, then Ephraim started to envy Judah. And the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. All right? Why? Because the Lord is going to remove those differences. All right? So going back here, let's read this again. This is 3 Maccabees 2 and 33. They remain hopeful. This is dealing with the Jews that refused to bow down to those Greeks. They held their integrity. They didn't bend to their will. They didn't accept. They didn't sacrifice swine. They didn't eat swine's flesh. They still call themselves Israelites. It says they remain hopeful of obtaining help, and they look with contempt on those Jews who had deserted them. They considered those who gave in to be enemies of the Jewish nation, and no longer associated with them or offered them assistance. So they shunned them. You guys are nothing but heathens. We just read that in Ephesians. That the The ones that were uncircumcised were called that by the ones that were circumcised. And we understand by knowing that Greek history that that's the reason why they call them uncircumcised, because they had a disdain for them. They no longer wanted to associate with them, even though they were Israelites. So they cut them off. You see? So they had a disdain for them. That's why they wanted to get Paul, because they said he was bringing heathens into the temple. They knew it wasn't actual heathens. They were Israelite foreigners that they considered heathens, and they wanted to fall upon the Apostle Paul because they had a contempt and disdain for these Israelites that had sold out, but that now are being brought back. That's why it says, you know that you were Gentiles, because our people were scattered among these nations and became unclean as an unclean vessel. So I just wanted to make mention of that, so this has just been a continuation on the Gentiles, Israelite foreigners. I just wanted to make mention of that because we've always been saying that. And then when I read this, from watching the brother's video here in GMS Vegas Sit Down 144K, and I remembered Elder Pastor had did it, which he actually mentioned in this lesson too, that Elder Pastor went into 3rd Maccabees, and this even proves even further that the Jews that didn't sell out had a disdain and a contempt and didn't want to help and casted out the rest of those Israelites that became uncircumcised or became Hellenized. So with that, I pray that you brothers and your few sisters have been edified. Until the next time I say shalom.